So I'll start recording. Hi, everybody. It's Steve Garvin and Bernadette Geyers, and we're here to continue our conversation about elevating your brand. And today's topic is blank key messages. So, what is your key message, and how does that all come together? How about you, Bernadette? What are your thoughts on key messages?
Well, I think it's important that any business have a particular way that they talk about either the products that they sell or the services they offer. And these would be certain phrases that you would repeat often enough throughout all of your various marketing materials, your website, your social media posts. And by repeating these frequently, people come to associate these particular key messages or these phrases or these specific ways that you phrase the characteristics of your services or products. They associate them automatically with you, and no one else. No one else. So that that's your brand. Like think of Rice Krispies.
Mm.
There would be no other cereal in the world that could get away with saying that their their cereal had a snap, crackle, and pop.
Mm.
That's just the way they phrase it, and this differs a little bit from like a tagline or a key or a slogan. Um, the key messages are really uh, just certain phrases that will people will automatically associate with your company.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. One of the ones that I've been working on lately for me is the idea of be vocal, be visual, be visible. You know, and it's kind of going back to when earlier we were talking about our ideal clients. And one of the things that as a creative and visual person, I'm all about being visual and and putting it out there. But what I've noticed is with a lot of the people that I work with is that they tend to be more verbal first, then visual second. And so what I've started to put together is be vocal, be visible, be visible. You know that when you put your verbal information together, just like we're talking about with branding, you got your words out side of it and you've got your imagery side of it. And when you pull those things together, then it helps your visibility, so much better.
Oh yeah.
You know, they,
And it's funny when you talk about the be vocal, be visible, it makes me automatically think of the bee on your gifts into gold.
yeah, absolutely. And part of that is intentional. And the image that I created today is actually um, totally plays off of that. Um, is you know, and that's one of the things that digressing a little bit, but one of the things I love about images is that there's so much, um, there's a wealth of opportunity with symbolism and different messages that you can get from it and so forth. The word part of it, the language part of it, kind of anchors it, and gives it specificity. Um, but uh, the visual adds other aspects. It makes it more. When I say the word "be," for instance, one, am I saying "be" or "bee"? And two, what is the image that comes with that? The same thing with our key messages. That when we say "snap, crackle, pop," if we're talking about your joints, that's probably not a good thing.
No. That's true. Yeah, and I guess the other thing about key phrases is once you use something often enough and like no one else can use it, it's your differentiator. Um, and you want to make sure that you're saying things in a unique way.
Mm.
just the way you create images that are very unique. They don't look like so-and-so's image, or you don't have something that just looks like somebody else's bee in a hive. I don't even know
Right.
who has a bee going to its little cell. um, and when you come up with your own unique way of saying something and you repeat that often enough, then people automatically associate it with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what's really powerful. And that's really the idea behind branding in general is, when you automatically associate Snap, Crackle, Pop with Rice Krispies,
Yeah.
or uh, with Geico again coming through my mind, in 15 minutes or less, you can find, save whatever percentage on your auto insurance.
Right, yeah. Or, what other beer tastes great, can say tastes great, less filling.
Right.
There'd be a lot of toes being stepped on. And I guess that's another thing. When people are coming up with these key messages, they might go through and brainstorm all of the different um, benefits of their product or their service. And by just putting it out there and churning out a list of the characteristics of your services, the values that your services or products bring, and think of innovative ways of stating these things, and kind of look through your big list, and then focus on some that really stand out to you as catchy, and things that you feel comfortable interspersing into all of your marketing materials, because
Yeah.
you have to be comfortable with it.
When you're working on creating that big list, what do you have some methodology that you use to create that? Creating different ideas that you could have for creating your own Snap, Crackle, Pop, or
Yeah. Well, I guess I had put together a few questions that people can use as prompts when they're
Mhm.
doing this for themselves for this particular challenge. And the questions are: how does your target customer feel when they're using your product, or when they have received the benefit of your service? So
Mm,
kind of go through and think of all of the things that your customer will feel.
mm,
Um, Another thing might be how they felt before your service. So, you if you always hated getting chocolate on your hands when you eat candy, but then like M&M's comes out with this great candy coated chocolate that melts in your mouth, not in your hands.
right.
Oh, that's exciting. So you can think of like the problem that you're solving for your clients.
Mm,
um,
nice.
and then also, why would someone be interested in your product or service? Like, kind of bring some fun into it, because you might just state facts, but just stating facts can be boring. So
Mhm.
you want to create some energy or some excitement around your brand.
Right. Do you think in the terms of story when you're with the language, or uh,
Not necessarily for my key messages, but that's a great idea. Is I mean, maybe not quite the story, but I think of a lot of people talk about your client's journey,
mhm,
and that could also be another way of bringing out these sort of key messages, is by creating an actual customer journey, and
mm,
look at, kind of tell a story about one particular client and see what comes out of that.
yeah, that's great.
How would
You-
how would you do it for your, kind of coming up with these key images that might be reflecting your services or products? I realize I am probably gesturing too much, so I'm gonna keep my hands down.
No worries. I was not thinking that at all. So
Okay.
don't don't be self-conscious about it.
Okay.
The thing that I realized is that oftentimes people, I do think in the terms of story, and what is the idea that I'm trying to convey? Because I mean, it's there for me. One of the things I fundamental beliefs is that I believe that we live in a beautiful world, and there's when I'm out shooting photography every morning, my challenge is, how do I find something beautiful in, this moment, right? So today, uh, very gray. It's actually snowing a little bit here in Tacoma, and I was down on the water, and everything is gray, and you can do some interesting things with that, but there's like no story really with it. And so what I wanted to, what I found is this big maple leaf that had some color to it, and I just used it as a prop in the in order to capture the water. And the other thing too is that I wanted to capture a moment, right? So I was looking for when the waves hit against the rocks and created the, talk about gesturing I'm doing, but the sound, Puget Sound, comes crashing up against the rocks and creates some waves, and then there's a little bit of color from the leaf and so forth, and so there's like that moment in time type of thing. And so it's not like a story in that Jack and Jill went up a hill type of thing, but it's a moment in time. There's like a before and an after type of thing, and you're capturing the moment right then where something is happening, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of what you want to do. And it's like, it goes back to what you were saying earlier about, how does your ideal client feel? What is the problem they're solving? If you can create some kind of a evocative moment or experience with your words, with your images that taps into that, you get the emotional connection, you make it more memorable, you make it just turns out to be a greater end product. Whereas like facts and numbers, you say, throw a number around 60,000 or something like that, without any context, without any story to that, it's not really meaningful. 60,000 what? Are we talking population? Are we talking, income? Are we talking whatever? But if you add the story into it, give the context to it, give, some moment in time where something is happening, that it just adds so much more to it.
Yeah.
So yeah. but that's really, I think, what you're trying to do is, with your branding, you want to be memorable, you want it to be attractive, you want it to be something that, when people see your branding or hear the words that you use, that there's a recognition there, that that person, that company is doing something that excites you, that that you can relate to. And that's
And the thing with some certain key messages is that once you kind of have a specific key message, you can play off of that. So we were talking a few weeks ago about musical scores in movies. And if you think about, like, say, the Star Wars theme or the Indiana Jones theme, and there is sort of the song itself, but then throughout the course of the movie, it gets adapted slightly so that it's slightly different, but it still contains enough bits of the original version that you can tell that that's still part of that theme. And a good key message will carry through even through adaptations, and through visuals. You can, with your bee, you can have the bee in a different situation, but it's still the same bee. Or you can have the little hive cell, and it's, it still ties back to your brand.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of the point too with, I've actually got numerous versions of my logo, depending on what kind of situation I have it in,
Mhm.
what's the, and one of the things I'm really keyed into is, what colors are in the image right now, so how do I tap, you know, make it correspond appropriately. And probably the
Right.
same thing with language too, right? You know, you're,
Yeah.
um, you can say, and again, the snap crackle pop is going through my mind, but you can say that, when you're visiting your chiropractor, um, you know, um, or you can, talk about it in the context of cereal. And there's always, and it's really interesting is that how they've taken those sounds, snap, crackle, and pop are the sounds that you hear when you pour the milk on your cereal, and so it
Right.
creates this, this moment,
Right.
which they capitalize, which uh, Kellogg's capitalized on in order to, uh, one of those companies anyway, but they capitalized on it and used it in order to create this whole experience around it. So you
Right.
got the characters, you got the little elf characters, little dwarf characters who represent visually, rice, uh, snap, crackle, and pop. And then all the commercials that they have. There's always a different. If you saw the same commercial over and over again, you'd just get so tired of it that
Yeah.
it would be white noise. Um, but by continually recreating using the same theme, and they've been using that theme for as long as I've been around,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
which yeah, so it's, they just have different variations of it. And when you find your key messages that just really works, it uh, you can use it over and over again
Yeah.
differently,
Yeah.
change it up a bit, use different context, um,
Exactly.
so that it keeps interest, but also that that people recognize it, and it's a familiar thing that people know that they want. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. So our challenge today.
So our challenge today is for you guys to think about what your key messages are. What are some short, don't, it's not a paragraph. It's not even a
Right.
half a paragraph. It's a basically a sentence, that it encapsulates the idea of your brand, of who you are, and of what you're doing. And it's different also from your elevator speech or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, kind of how do you capture that idea and convey it to your audience.
I know for me, my example is that, I went through sort of my about me
Mm,
story and how I like to be a little fish in a big pond.
right.
And other people may like being a big fish in a little pond, but then again, they may feel like they've outgrown their pond.
Mm,
And so, like, I like to say, break out of your fishbowl, move to a bigger pond.
mm,
So I will sprinkle those phrases throughout my materials.
yeah.
So I guess if people want to come up with, they can brainstorm a whole bunch of ideas, but maybe they can list a few for us to see
Absolutely.
down below
Yeah, and
in the
just play with
comments.
it. And and it doesn't have to be set in stone. I mean, once it gets set in stone, wonderful. But it takes time. It's going off of another slogan that I think I'm not a drinker, but what is it? It's friggin' Henry Weinhardt, and they're a great wine takes time, and I'm totally
Oh,
butchering it, but
I will sell no wine before it's time.
right, exactly.
I forget who that was.
Henry Weinhardt, yeah,
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah. But just let it kind of, and once you kind of get an idea of something, then you can play off of it, and do different variations in order to find something that really sets in. So like
Yeah.
I'm have been playing with my um, be vocal, be visual, be visible uh, idea, and up until today it was be verbal, be visual, be visible, and I switched it up a little bit to be vocal, so that's a little bit more evocative. But it's evolving, it's growing, and
Yeah.
it, you know, and one of the things too is to take it out to the market and see, you know, how people respond to it.
That's true. Yeah, you might come up with 10 ideas and then after testing them, find 3 that really work for
Right.
you and your business.
Yeah. And a good way to test it out is to put it down in the comments. So
Yeah.
you have people respond.
I
And
look forward to seeing them.
absolutely. So that concludes our day 4, and we will catch you on the next day. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.